Hey there, friends. This is Bill MacDonald, the reading and writing doctor here. Today, I want to work on the most difficult question for this past year for third grade students. Now, I'm in my virtual library, and in most libraries, there's going to be a fiction section where it could be totally fake, there could be some fantasy, there could be some realistic fiction, and then there's nonfiction. There's informational type things about people and places and uh, science and social studies, events in people and events that took place in different places and people who accomplish things. Lots of ideas. So just like fourth grade, the third grade informative passage was one of the ones that scored the lowest in terms of the most questions. And I have this weird hat on because I want to just tell you that a lot of people have different ideas about what works and what doesn't. But I kind of look at the results at the end of the year. And when I see a question that only gets like 40% correct, I just have a feeling that whatever ideas that were kind of shared around the state maybe weren't the best ones to teach, that there were too many holes or gaps in those ideas. And so sometimes we have to look at the best idea, something that can work for the kids, uh, that can analyze information, that can take content and learn how to understand the content by breaking it down into smaller ideas, which is what the question was about. So what I want to do is take off this silly hat because it's too hot, first of all. And then I want to show you the question that I'm referring to. And again, the state, just so you know, has not released the test yet. I'm just helping certain schools who have access to the data, and I'm helping certain parents with their children. And so I want to help you guys too, so you don't have to wait until the end of August to start thinking about how to attack problems like the one that I'm going to show you. So let's take a look first at the problem. It was question number 13 in the third grade. And if you can see here, the district that I was working with, they scored a 41%. But before anybody starts getting all excited, the entire state only had 45%, which means just maybe a couple percentages higher of kids. And since this was a small district, it could have, with just maybe with one or two kids more getting the question correct, it would have made up the difference. So when less than half of the student population in May does poorly on a test, I like to kind of analyze it and say, you know what, maybe there's a better way, a better idea about that topic, the question Q that's being asked. And so, as you can see, there were two big distractors because the correct answer, letter A, was followed by the biggest distractor, letter B, 30%, letter C, 22%. So 40 plus 30 plus 20, that's 70, 93%, only 7% chose D. So I won't spend much time on that, but what I want to do is show you how all of you um, who have some of the materials already can use these simple items to kind of break down ideas into sections that work. So the question said, how does the author organize the selection? So the selection is the whole passage, not section, the whole selection. So whenever there's a question about a whole selection, we kind of have to look at a couple of things first. If we look at the beginning of the selection, we're going to see something called a title. at the top. And so the title is called Capital Mission, Capital Blue. And you can pretty much tell by the time you get to the second or third paragraph and the pictures about a group and some people and a problem that this is an informative passage. So informative passages have information. So we just have to see how is that information divided. And so what I want to direct all of you to who are members of the CREST online training is go to the revising graphic organizer that I sent you a class set of. And I want you to notice that on the top half, it has some words in red where our palm goes. And so the purpose, red, is informative. The genre is informative. And they asked us a question about the entire passage, red. You can see it circled there. They asked us about an entire selection. So you can see the word selection there. And all they asked was, how is it organized? I want you to notice the acronym TIES. How is it organized so that everything ties together correctly? Well, when you look at the organization, I want you to take a look at the lower half. I noticed that there were two types of relationships in this question 13 that got 41% correct. You could either call it a cause and effect relationship, see the red words there, or a conflict resolution. And here's resolution over here. So think about it alphabetically. Cause comes before effect in the alphabet, and cause comes before effect in a reading selection. Also, because I'm going to use my left hand, because of this certain thing, transition, I'm going to make my T here. I'm spreading out, making a T, and then you see right there in the middle, transition, Teeter, transition, Totter, C, transition, saw. So how does A relate to B? Or if B happens to be first, sometimes the because happens to be first, and sometimes the because happens to be second. So what they asked was, how is the selection organized? So I looked in paragraph 4 and I saw this. The water is dirty. The animals and plants are in danger. That's a problem. That's a conflict. That's a problem. So in paragraph 5, they said, well, let's divide it into smaller parts so that it's easier to clean and protect a small part of the ocean at a time. That was their first step. Now, keep in mind, there are no dates here. They didn't say when these problems took place. They didn't say what order they did them in or anything like that. That's important that you pay attention to that. Then they said in paragraph 6, as you can see here, you can tell me either a sentence or a paragraph number. So we're going to just stay in paragraph 6, that there are certain areas that are in danger. Is that good or is that bad? Since this is bad, I put a down arrow. Since number 6 is bad, I put a down arrow. Algae disappearing, certain animals rely on algae in the ocean. Because all of those things are negative, we need to have a resolution in them that solves these problems. We need an effect. What is the effect? Something that they did, that group called Mission Blue. So what did they do in paragraph 6? They said, let's form a group called the MPA. And as I'm looking for it, it's called the MPA is paragraph 6. I'm looking at it. It's called the Marine Protected Area, which means what? No fishing, no boats. So if they don't allow fishing or boats in there, that means there won't be people in there and those areas will be in less danger. Let's get rid of the people who are causing these problems and the boats who are disturbing those areas. And hopefully that will cut down. Number 7, they said also, and these are just some, watch me here in the corner, examples. I could just give you 1 or 2, but I gave you 3 different examples of some problems and some resolutions. The algae is disappearing. That's a problem. What did they do? They decided to start keeping the water clean to prevent the algae from dying or disappearing. So since that was understanding the content, some of these things on the arm down here are for helping me understand content in reading, but it's also to help me understand content in revising or to improve the content by adding, removing, replacing, or moving things. So basically in reading, I just have to understand the content, but we had to understand it based on how it was organized. So when we take a look at the answer choices, I'm going to show you why it's going to be so easy to eliminate. If you look at letter A, by exploring problem, explaining, and informative is one form of explaining. We'll be doing a lot of that in the short answer and the extended essay type. Explain your answer. You have to tell me where you find the answer. You've got to give me the evidence, and then to get the extended essay, to get all the points for extended essay, you got to get the development for it right where you explain. So let's divide it into a conflict and a resolution, a cause and an effect. The problems that happen in the oceans, yes, I told you in 4, 6, and 7, and the work that Mission Blue is doing to solve the problems. You saw that in several paragraphs. Let's see what happened with 30 that was a distractor. By describing in chronological order the actions that Mission Blue has taken. Well, they never told us when or in what order they did any of those things. So as soon as you see those 2 words, chronological and order, no, there was no specific order. They had no dates, no years. They didn't have a list of things to do. And because part of the information is missing, it wasn't just the actions that they did. They had to have the problems and the solutions, the conflict and the resolutions, the cause and the effect. And just like cause and effect, conflict comes before resolution in the alphabet. So the conflicts tend to come before the resolutions in the passage. So that's why you would eliminate letter B. Let's find out what happened with C. By providing the causes of problems in the oceans and effects of different ways that they help. No, it wasn't the causes of the problems. In other words, all those things that happened over here on this left-hand side, those were problems, but they didn't tell us the causes of the problems. They just told us how they tried to solve the problems. So for letter C, one word makes this wrong. By sharing the problems of the ocean and the effects of different ways. So this idea, this dum-dum, because I say the whole sentence is sort of like a Smartie, and every little detail, every part of the sentence is like a detail called a dum-dum. Well, that one little detail right there, the causes of the problem, well, that happened before this passage even started. So almost a fourth of the kids were saying that they could see what caused the water to get dirty, what caused the plants and animals to be in danger, what caused the algae to be disappearing. No, they just said the effects, what they did to stop those things. And so I would suggest that you think of the Teeter Totter analogy, because almost all reading selections have a cause and effect. If they ask you what was the reason, they're basically asking you for the cause. That means they're going to give you the yellow totter, the yellow saw, and they're asking you for the teeter or the C, action or a reaction. If it's a paired passage, they're going to ask questions just about passage A. They're going to ask questions about passage B, selection A, selection B. Then they're going to ask you a question about how are they the same? How do they compare? And then they'll ask you, how do they contrast? How are they different? And so when I worked with my last group of teachers, we actually brought 2 pairs of shoes. And I told them on day 2, bring 2 pairs of shoes that don't match, but they're a left shoe and a right shoe. Because in my book, I go from left to right with 2 different passages that have an introduction, an introduction, a body, and a conclusion, a beginning, a middle, and an end in 2 kinds of passages. Now, we don't know if we're always going to be staying in the nonfiction section or if we're going to have to move to the fiction section. They might compare a poem to a fictional passage. We don't know how they're going to do it. They kind of have their own license about their own ideas about which kind of genres they're going to compare and contrast. So the idea is, yes, let's tie the outside, the first laces together for a few questions. Then let's grab that other shoe and tie those laces together. Then say, oh, let's grab the inside, untie those. Let's grab the inside laces and say, how do those 2 paired passages, like a pair of shoes, how are they the same in terms of the teeter-totter relationship, and how are they different? Because they're saying, how do they compare, transition, contrast? How are they the same? So it's sort of like saying that connected part is the Venn diagram. The compare part is where they're the same. The outside part is where it's only one passage, how they're different, and then you'd have to go A, B, C, D for passage A, and check A, B, C, D for passage B, and see which statements are true in terms of how they're the same for all of them except one, or how they're different for all of them except one, and possibly this year sometimes 2 answers, more than 1 correct answer. So that's how I would suggest an idea. There's a lot of eyeballs on that weird looking hat that I was wearing. Go ahead and share this with your teacher friends. Your students can easily, once they understand it's a conflict resolution situation, a cause and a transition effect situation, they can easily ask you on test date, I need just a plain white sheet of paper where they can draw their own teeter-totters, their own seesaws, and they can try to figure out how one idea relates to the other one. And so this was within one passage. All the students had to do was look and see that it was divided with all of the problems that were happening in the ocean and all of the resolutions, the things that Mission Blue did to solve them, so that the following action, if you want to call it that, even though it wasn't a story, it was real life that happened, things that they did to help the oceans uh, be better and accomplish their mission as Mission Blue. So go ahead and like this video on my YouTube page. Whoever takes time to like the YouTube page, I will go ahead and have a little raffle with those of you who do it, because it tells me um, who likes. If you subscribe, that's going to be even more important. If you subscribe, I know for sure, sometimes I can't tell who liked something, but I can tell who subscribed. So any new subscribers, if you like the video on Facebook or share it, I'm going to have a little raffle and I'll give a set of those little graphic organizers for free. But all of you who have are in the CREST training, that's just a way that you can go about solving those problems, those kind of reading problems that have a uh, conflict resolution or cause and effect relationship. So look forward to seeing you guys the next time. I've already done 1/4 reading, 1/3 reading. So my next one will be a 5th grade reading. And I've already done 1 4th grade math. So if you are a parent and you have access to the parent portal and you want help with a specific problem, a strategy for math or reading, social studies, science, I just need you to do a screenshot for me and I can share with you. And I think I would like to help everybody. Go ahead and share, give me permission. I won't share your students, your child's score, but I will share the strategy so that everybody can maybe do better. So worst case scenario, don't use a worksheet. Take your kids out to a teeter-totter, a seesaw if you still have one, if they haven't been deemed illegal because maybe too many kids got hurt. I don't know why they're doing away with them. They seem like to be the least dangerous thing in terms of comparing that to a jungle gym or a swing or one of those the monkey bars. Those things seem more dangerous, but for some reason we've even gotten rid of teeter totters. So uh, if you can't use a teeter totter, then maybe use a balance, those balance skills where you can talk about cause and effect relationships, compare and contrast, where that way when you put something on the circle of the balance scale, it causes it to go down on the other side. That's just another way to teach this concept. So God bless, take care. Go ahead and share or tag one of your reading teacher friends, because cause and effect relationships, compare and contrast, that happens in all grades from kinder all the way to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Kids have to understand how a passage, a paragraph, how selections are organized, and not just one way to do it. Thanks and God bless.